Okay, let's go. Yes, hello all. Today we have a session about the new features of the driving coach. The driving coach has just learned to give you valuable instructions while you're driving about cornering technique, driving technique in general, braking technique, and so on. And I want to show you today how to prepare for a good practice session with a driving coach, because there is a lot of stuff to configure. The driving coach is using a large language model in the background. You have to connect to GPT service and so on. So many things can go wrong, and I would like to help with this session, with this video, so that you will have the best experience at the end. I don't know if everybody who will see this video have already seen the introduction video for the driving coach. It's linked in the simulator controller channel at YouTube. It's about 10 minutes long, and I just want to give you a short view on how this new thing behaves. And yeah, let's have a look. We will jump directly to the part where the driving coach is giving on-track suggestions and recommendations. And let's see how this will do. So we are driving here at Brands Hatch.
Your performance in corner 1 was better than in the reference lap. Brake later into turn 3 to maximize speed and reduce time. Push harder through the corner to increase lateral G-force and improve acceleration out of the turn. Your performance in corner 5 is already better than in the reference lap.
I will now jump to the end.
Improve your brake pressure ramp up, reach maximum pressure quicker. Brake later to reduce time in the corner and the following sections. Your performance in corner 1 was better than in the reference lap.
Okay, now here I finished the practice session.
Okay, what were my best improvements around the track?
Your best improvements around the track were in corner 3 and corner 4. In corner 3, you achieved a higher lateral G-force at the apex compared to the reference lap, indicating better cornering performance. In corner 4, you also improved your exit speed, allowing for a more effective acceleration out of the corner. These enhancements contribute positively to your overall lap time.
Okay, let's have a stop here. So you have seen that the driving coach not only will give you instructions for the next corner, but is also able to discuss everything with you. You have a fully natural discussion with the driving coach. You can ask any question what you want. I will have a live demonstration later on this as well. So it's very much different than other more similar tools that are available in this area out there. So let's have a look how to set everything up correctly so that you can get the best out of your practice sessions. First things first, let's start the simulator setup tool. here on the basic configuration page you can enable the driving coach. Give him a name. I'm using Kim as my personal driving coach. You can choose any language, any voice for it. But that's not the end of the configuration for the driving coach, because the driving coach must be mandatory connected to a GPT service. Short explanation there. This is necessary to have a fully natural discussion with the driving coach. There will be a mode in the future with an upcoming release where you can even use the driving coach without a GPT service, but the instructions which will be given then will be much more mechanical. So I will always recommend to use the GPT service. The other assistants, as most of you will know, are not based on GPT technology, so they can be used on its own, but for the driving coach we need an additional configuration. This can be found here on the assistance configuration page. And here you can define which GPT service you want to use. I'm using the GPT-4o Mini large language model from OpenAI, but there are lots of other providers available. For example, you can connect to Mistral AI, or you can even run your own local language model using Olama, for example. Yeah, but you have to connect to one here in the end. Another interesting feature you find here are the instructions. The instructions will give the coach a kind of a personality and a lot of knowledge about racing in general. Here the character instruction is used to tell the large language model that it is a driving coach, his name, that is responsible for circuit racing and so on. But there are not a lot of new instructions here available since the introduction of the on-track coaching. They are all start with coaching. The general one here is this one, which gives the large language model lots of information about good driving technique, which might not be available by the pre-trained model on its own, because driving technique is not a mainstream topic, and you cannot find lots of good resources on it online. So here is information about good driving technique, and for example, it's not good to have a long rolling phase around the apex, or it's not good to have a lot of ABS activation and so on. You can change these instructions as always. So if you want to focus on different topics for your driving, change the instructions and try the behavior of the driving coach afterwards. If you want to go back to the default instructions, you can always press here this little button and it will load the default instructions. The different instructions here are used in different contexts in the discussion with the driving coach. So if you're approaching a corner, this one will be used, which says, for example, that the coach must be short phrased, so using a maximum of 25 words, for example, that he should only tell me about the two most important areas of improvement for the upcoming corner, and so on. As before, you can change that. For example, if you want to get an even shorter instruction with 10 words and only one important area of improvement, up to your requirements. So then, yes, take a look here and tune it to your liking. That's it in terms of general configuration. Another important thing to understand is that the driving coach is based on telemetry data and also must have a knowledge of the track where you are doing your practice session. Tracks are learned by the software automatically once you have run the first lap around the track. Oh no, not correct. You must drive at least 2 or 3 laps in your first session. Then a track gets recorded and you will find it for the given car and track combination here under this section in the session database. You can go here to the sections mode where you can see what track sections have been defined for this given track. If you have the track recorded for the first time, there will be no defined track sections, so you must enter the track sections on your own. This is quite simple. You click on a point on the track and say, okay, here starts a corner. And then a corner point will be added. Not very useful in the straight. You can also delete points or you can move points around. Important is here that you start the given section at nearby the point where you will start braking or where you under full acceleration again. For example, looking here at this corner, the braking phase begins around here and the acceleration is at 100% or the throttle is at 100%, at least at here. So that all these area between those 2 points will count as a corner. That's one thing of preparation you have to do before you can use the driving coach. Also, as an outlook, in a future version, I'm already working on it, there will be the capability to create track sections on its own based on the telemetry data. They will not be perfect, but they will be good enough for your first or practice session. Okay, and then another thing is that you must understand how telemetry data works for a given track. I have, for example, here stored one reference lap. What a reference lap is, we will come to in a few minutes. And let's have a look at this telemetry data. I double-clicked it, and the telemetry viewer opens up. And here you can see the data which will be in numerical format also available to the driving coach when you're doing your practice session. To understand the data, the driving coach needs, as said, the sections of the track, and will also need to have an understanding of the numbers involved here. It's a lot of numerical data. We can have a look at how the driving coach understands a given section at the track. Let's open up the track map here and click on this corner, for example. And then another small inspector window pops up, which will give detailed information about this point on the track in a more high-level format. So here you can already see that the entry phase of the given corner lasts about 1.5 seconds. The braking point is around 110 meters before the apex. The brake pressure, the maximum brake pressure I reached here was 83%. Okay, that's here at this point, and so on. So a lot of high-level data extracted from the low-level data. Because I think some of you might know GPT, large language model technology. A large language model can never understand the full numerical data of this telemetry representation. So I'm extracting this high-level summary of the given corner out of the data and pass this information to the driving coach. The driving coach then can discuss already with you the given corner from your last lap, and it can compare the performance of the last lap against a reference lap. A reference lap is telemetry data of a given lab. You can get a reference lab from different sources. It can be, for example, one of your own labs from a long session from yesterday or the week before. You can store as many labs as reference labs here in the session database, and you can define using a setting. I will show you in a few minutes which one of these labs are to be used as reference lab. But you can also use the fastest lab of the current session as the reference lab to be compared to the current last lab. So there are, as always in simulator controllers, several ways to do it, very flexible, but it needs some understanding from your side. And if you have a reference lab, how do I get to a reference lab? Okay, let me do it this way. We open up the Solo Center, load a session at Brands Hatch. I think I have recorded telemetry data there. Yes, right. In this session I had recorded the telemetry data from all labs. And here we have one, let's take this one as reference lab, the lab 28. 28 as reference lab. Okay, you can see subtle differences between the reference lab and the currently selected lab. And if we now open up the track map again and select this point, you will see the same inspector, but you will see two labs. The first one is the lab to focus on, and the second one is the reference lab. That's also the same which will be available to the driving coach, the large language model, so he can check on the different data, see, for example, that in the reference lab the ABS activation at this corner was higher than in the last lab, because I was driving more aggressively there, and so on. So, knowing this, the next step is to tell the system how to handle the telemetry data, how to pass it to the driving coach. This is done as with many other things in simulator controller using the settings. So you have a lot of settings for the new coaching module, and let's have a look at them. For example, we have this one. We want to load the reference lab from database. There are three possible settings. None means we won't load a reference lab from the database, so only the fastest lab of the current session will be used as a reference lab. Or we will load the fastest lab from the session database, which might be quite okay if you only have labs for fixed weather conditions in there. But if you are using weather conditions, for example, you have a reference lab for wet, you have a reference lab for dry conditions, you have a reference lab for light rain condition, and so on. You can store different reference labs here in the reference lab section by using the save command here from an active session. And therefore you can also give the reference lab a specific name for specific weather condition. Okay, let's do it again, because we switched the weather. We need to enter it again here. Say here, load from database, and give it a name. And the name will be my wet reference lab if you have stored it under this name. To be clear here, this is the name to be used here. Okay. Other settings here are also quite interesting for the coach. For example, time between instructions means how many seconds the coach waits after he's given an instruction before the next one will be given. So if you don't want the coach to tell you what to do for each and every corner on the track, but only for a few of them, yeah, let's enter here something like 30 seconds. So you will have instruction-free driving for around 30 seconds before the coach will give his next instruction. And also this one here is quite interesting. Distance before corner means the distance in meters where the instruction should be given. So on a track with some shorter straights, you will lower this value. The default value is 400 meters, so the coach will tell you how to approach the next corner 400 meters before the corner starts. So this can also be specified or customized and so on. As always, all this is available in the documentation. You will find the documentation for all race settings here in the race settings page, and here you have a full explanation of all these settings and how to use them for your best experience. Okay, when you have done all that, you don't have to customize these settings for your first practice session, because they all have reasonable default values. But you can later on if you get more specialized. But what you have to do is to create the track sections, and you have to record the track of course. So then you go to the track, and you have to enable the coach so that it will collect telemetry data and will come back to you after a few laps with the message that telemetry data is now available and what it can do for you. There are voice commands for this. For example, the voice command to start the coaching on itself sounds like, can you help me with my practice? And after 2 or 3 laps, the coach tells you, okay, I have data now, what can I do for you? And then you will either discuss the performance of your last lap with the corner, with the coach, or you can tell him, can you give me instructions while I'm driving? And then the coach will give you the corner by corner instructions, as we have seen before in the YouTube video. There are also controller actions available for this. So if you have a button box or a stream deck, you can define a button and you can activate the coaching by a press of the button. And there are several other ways to do it, so take a look at the documentation. It's always here, for example, in the where it is here for the virtual driving coach. So there's also an automation available, so that for example in practice sessions the coaching will start automatically always, and so on. Lots of things to explore. Yes, that's it. I have a coach running in the background. I have driven a few laps before I started our session here, and the coach has already some knowledge about the track, and we can play with him right now. Let's try something. Hey Kim.
Yes, Oliver, did you try to reach me?
What can you tell me about turn number 9?
In turn number 9, your performance shows a time of 5.38 seconds, which is slower than the reference lap's 5.31 seconds. The maximum lateral g-force you achieved was 1.17, while the reference lap reached 1.43. This indicates that you might not be utilizing the full potential of the car during this turn. Your braking point was at 66.0 meters before the apex, and while you maintained good brake pressure, the lower g-force suggests that you could potentially brake later and still maintain control. The acceleration phase started 42.6 meters after the apex, which is significantly later than the reference lap's 14.9 meters. This delay in acceleration could be contributing to the slower exit speed. Focusing on smoother throttle inputs and possibly adjusting your braking technique could help improve your performance in this turn.
So you see, very detailed understanding of this corner of the track. It's the last corner before coming to the start-finish straight. Yeah, let's discuss it further. Do you see any TC activations at this turn?
In turn number 9, there were no traction control (TC) activations reported. This indicates that your throttle inputs were likely smooth and within the limits of the car's grip during this turn. Maintaining this level of control can help you maximize your acceleration out of the turn.
That's quite normal for this turn. You're coming out of the corner. It's a little bit, it's a long corner with a large radius, so no TC activations there, but there are other corners at Brands Hatch which have a lot of TC activations. Let's try if the coach doesn't know this. Are there any other corners where the TC activations are quite high?
In the data provided, there are no specific TC activations mentioned for other corners, as most corners indicate low TC activations. If you are experiencing issues with traction control in other corners, it would be beneficial to analyze your throttle inputs and consider adjusting your driving technique to minimize TC activations. Smooth and gradual throttle application can help maintain better acceleration and control. If you're unsure, I recommend using the telemetry analyzer in Setup Workbench to identify any corners with high TC activations.
That's yeah, quite an issue. I was driving too slow to have a lot of TC activations, but the coach did give us some hints how to cope with a lot of TC activations anyway. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. How must I drive to circumvent TC activations?
To minimize traction control (TC) activations, focus on applying the throttle smoothly and progressively rather than abruptly. Gradually increasing throttle input as you exit corners can help maintain grip and reduce the likelihood of TC engaging. Additionally, consider short shifting if you notice excessive wheel spin, as this can help keep the RPMs in a more manageable range. If you're still experiencing high TC activations, analyzing your driving style and the specific corners where these activations occur using the telemetry analyzer in Setup Workbench can provide more tailored insights.
Okay, let's try one more. What is the corner with the most potential for improvement?
Turn number 2 shows significant potential for improvement. Your time in this turn was 6.76 seconds, which is slower compared to the reference lap's 6.61 seconds. The maximum lateral g-force you achieved was 0.77, which is lower than the reference lap's 0.90. You also had a steering correction during this turn, indicating that you may not have been fully in control. By focusing on your braking point, possibly braking later, and ensuring smoother throttle application, you could enhance your performance in this corner and reduce your overall lap time.
Okay, I think this was a good understanding of the track and the problems I have there. I was driving quite slow to have a bad lap to discuss. And you have already seen in the video at the beginning that the driving coach can tell you on the track, corner by corner, how to change your driving inputs to get the most out of this corner. And yeah, I think we covered almost everything. Yeah, but as always, if there are any questions left, come to the Discord and ask your questions. Help is around the corner. Okay, thank you, and yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.